you kind of nailed what's been a very recent change in psychology of the market. We've gone from a place in the middle of the week where Micron is absolutely surging and the market is cheering a situation where memory chip supply is so tight and the memory names have pricing power, to now looking at it from completely the other perspective, from the seller of memory to now the buyer. And that Apple case study, the way that Bloomberg put it is Apple raising prices because one single component cost is so high is an extreme measure. And so now extrapolating out and looking at what happened in Asia trading overnight, a little bit the trading of this morning's market, the concern is the next step is we come full circle and demand for consumer electronics is dampened because of high prices. And by extension, memory, ironically, sees demand dampen a bit. So it's a really sort of circular debate the market's having with itself here.
Well, when it comes to the memory chip shortage, is this something that is acute at the moment, or is this going to be the new normal, especially with all the demand for chips from everywhere, essentially?
It's incredibly severe. So like in very simple terms, all these data centers that are getting built specifically with NVIDIA GPUs require lots of what's called high bandwidth memory. High bandwidth memory is just DRAM. Everyday DRAM goes into your own consumer electronics, layered upon one on top of the other. For every NVIDIA GPU you have, there are 8 corresponding high bandwidth memory chips, so lots of layers of DRAM. And because A, Micron and other memory names have pricing power, and B, that those building the data centers have lots of money, that's where the supply is being prioritized. The net result is that the consumer electronics industry, not just Apple, Xbox raised prices on its consoles too, they have no choice but to pay that higher pricing in order to secure supply. It is a very severe situation. And the weirdness was that in the moment, again, there was euphoria in the markets Wednesday into Thursday. Good for you, Micron. Stock surges. It's a really enviable position to be in. And what Micron said is that this situation is going to last for at least 18 months before it improves. So it's a lot for the market to decide, like, what is good news and what is bad news here.
Ed, when we had those higher egg prices coming out of the pandemic, my genius solution was to just make more chickens. And that basically is what happened, and egg prices came down. That logic, I don't think is going to apply to memory chips, will it?
So historically, before this whole AI thing, memory was highly cyclical, highly commoditized. It was an industry that went through boom and bust. When consumers got disinterested in PCs and smartphones, the memory market crashed, both in terms of pricing. And so that is an industry that's so sensitive to getting supply right. The story under this administration in particular, but for a longer period of time, has been, let's get these companies to build more capacity. The problem is, what if they build all these memory chip fabs and then demand evaporates and they're left with very large facilities that aren't doing anything? Well, that would be a really less than prudent financial move. That is still there. The difference is that the data center demand seems to be here forever. It has staying power. It's not as cyclical as the consumer electronics industry has been. It's a really hard one for them to get right.
All right, and let's switch gears and talk about this OpenAI IPO, which may not be happening now until 2027. What can you tell us about that?
I'm just looking at my bio to see if we've published yet. We haven't. What I can say is that it's consistent with what OpenAI said on June 8th when it disclosed its confidential filing, that they would stay private for quite a long time because there are things that they want to do that are more achievable as a private company than a public company. There is a lot going on in capital markets, as you know. We had the biggest IPO of all time in SpaceX. There is a lot of activity in the bond market, not just SpaceX tapping the bond market, NVIDIA as well being the most recent, and there is a finite pool of capital. It's consistent that OpenAI would take its time, but I think what I can say safely on air is, like, I think OpenAI is also pretty calm about the idea that Anthropic goes public before them. If you put it in the context of a race between two AI companies.